Okay, the next step is to implement this model in Excel, so please open up the template. When you look at the template, you'll see the cost data here, the initial inventory here, the demand is in row 7, your regular production in row 9, the maximum capacity of production in row 11. In row 13, you have the overtime production variables. In 15, it's going to be the maximum overtime production. And in 17, you have what we're going to put in the inventory formulas. And down in row 22, you have the objective, which is going to be costs. So let's start this model by perhaps putting in some numbers here. Let's say I'm producing 50 units in months 1 and 2, and I'm producing also full overtime 25 and 25. So I'm definitely going to have constraints of this kind, right? These are less than or equal to my maximum capacity, and these are less than or equal to my maximum capacity. And again, the less than or equal signs I'm putting here, they're just for visual representation. They don't actually change anything in the model. Now, the key part here is coming up with a formula for inventory. So what is the formula for inventory? That's the balance equation from the model that we just did. And this is how much I produce plus my overtime production plus my last period inventory, which in this case is the initial inventory, minus my demand. So here my inventory at the end of month 1 is 55 because I produced 75, I had 10, so that makes it 85 minus 30, 55. Now period 2, production plus last period inventory, which now is just a cell next door, minus demand. And now I can copy this down all the way to the end here. And I have all of my inventory formulas here. So I mentioned that you have to manually put in the bigger than or equal to 0. So let's do that. Let's put in these formulas that all of these are bigger than or equal to 0. So we have here that all of the inventories are non-negative. So the only thing missing here is to write down the objective, right? And what is the objective? It's 10 times the sum of all of my regular production plus 12.5 times the sum of my overtime production plus 1 times the sum of my inventory. And we're ready for solver. Data, solver. The objective is down here. I want to minimize, these are costs. I have the decision variables here, which are going to be these yellow cells, and they're separated. So depending on what computer you have to either hold command or control to put them all into the box. And now we need to add the constraints. And these are the capacity constraints, right? These are less than or equal to 50. Add. These are the decision variables here for overtime are less than or equal to 25. Add. And the non-negative inventory. These are bigger than or equal to 0. Okay. And we're done. Non-negativity, simplex LP. And the non-negativity here is making the yellow cells non-negative, but not the inventory. So that's why we had to manually put that in. We're ready. Let's click solve. Solver found a solution. All constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied. And here's your optimal production schedule. And your total cost is $5,865.